and we are going to protect America.
But 4 weeks into his administration, there are still holes in his national security team.
This administration is in disarray, and they've got a lot of work to do.
Also tonight, the president's supporters.
He's actually keeping his promises, and the media just doesn't like to report on because they don't really like what he stands for. I think everybody's got to really get on board the Trump train.
The West Coast is battered by a new round of storms. And Steve Hartman with one tough cookie.
We tried dunking it in tea, we tried dunking in hot chocolate, and it's just gross.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
The president flew out of Washington today, leaving behind a sense of insecurity in national security. Yesterday, President Trump ordered an investigation of his intelligence agencies, which he accused of leaking classified information that forced him to fire his national security advisor. He's compared U.S. intelligence to Nazis. Now there is skepticism in the military. The decorated retired vice admiral that Mr. Trump asked to be the new national security advisor has turned the commander-in-chief down. Earlier this week, the head of U.S. Special Operations Forces said the government continues to be in unbelievable turmoil. And today, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee said the president cannot be taken at his word. Major Garrett picks up the story at the White House.
And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake.
Before his first solo press conference yesterday, President Trump called CIA Director Mike Pompeo and heatedly complained about reports the agency was withholding intelligence from him. Mr. Trump told Pompeo to stop the damaging leaks to the press.
How did they write a story like that in the Wall Street Journal without asking me?
Pompeo denied the withholding of information. We are not aware of any instance when that has occurred, the director said in a statement, adding, the CIA does not, has not, and will never hide intelligence from the president. But sources tell CBS News there is a chill in the flow of intelligence to the White House. It is in part a consequence of critical comments from the president about the intelligence community. There is also anxiety that sensitive information about Russian meddling in the 2016 election could be mishandled. Another problem for the White House? No national security advisor to replace Michael Flynn, who was forced to resign earlier this week. Retired Vice Admiral Robert Harward turned down the post when the White House rejected Harward's request to hire his own staff. One candidate for the position is former CIA Director David Petraeus. At a security conference in Munich, Petraeus told the Wall Street Journal Flynn's replacement must have significant assurances that he or she would have authorities over the personnel of the organization. Also in Munich, John McCain, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, said the White House is losing control.
I think that the Flynn issue obviously is something that shows that in many respects this administration is in disarray and they've got a lot of work to do.
Petraeus will meet with Defense Secretary James Mattis in Munich as the administration continues its search for Flynn's replacement. Scott, the president said today for the first time his acting national security advisor, Keith Kellogg, already passed over once, is now a contender for the position.
Major Garrett traveling with the president in South Carolina tonight. Major, thanks. Now, Michael Flynn was fired when it became clear that he lied to the vice president about contacts he'd had with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. Flynn had talked to the ambassador about U.S. sanctions against Russia before Mr. Trump was inaugurated, a potential violation of the law. Jeff Pegues has the new developments.
Law enforcement sources tell CBS News it is unlikely former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn will face charges in connection to his discussions of U.S. sanctions with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. In late December, routine surveillance of Russian officials and operatives picked up Flynn's voice on a call with Sergei Kislyak. Sources say transcripts show the two discussed Obama administration sanctions on Russia, a possible violation of federal law since President Trump was not yet in office. In the early days of the Trump administration, Flynn was interviewed by FBI agents about the call. He also told Vice President Mike Pence that he did not discuss sanctions with Kislyak, a claim the vice president repeated on television.
They did not discuss anything having to do with the United States decision to expel diplomats or impose censure against Russia.
But investigators say that despite misleading the vice president, there is not enough evidence to charge him with lying to the FBI. Flynn has also not been cleared in the broader investigation into whether he and others in the Trump campaign were in regular contact with Russian officials during the election. The U.S. intelligence community has concluded that Russia carried out cyber attacks on Democratic Party officials designed to undermine Hillary Clinton.
No, nobody that I know.
Show me the proof.
Yesterday, the president denied he or any of his aides were involved.
I have nothing to do with Russia. Haven't made a phone call to Russia.
Show me the proof. I keep hearing
Today,
about how they did, but no one's ever come up with any proof.
Scott, sources say getting to the end of this investigation won't be a sprint, it's a marathon, and there is still a ways to go.
Jeff Begay's for us. Jeff, thank you. Well, Mr. Trump left Washington today for a
They
weekend.
think if they say it every day for a year, that it's going to be true.
Builds the 787 Dreamliner. Mr. Trump said America must rely less on imports and fight for every last job. In that news conference yesterday, Mr. Trump blamed his problems on the media, Congress, spy agencies, and Hillary Clinton. Omar Villafranca has found that is just what his supporters wanted to hear.
This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine.
Conservative talk radio host Rush Limbaugh gave a play-by-play of the president's conference, offering his support on air.
Trump's still standing, still triumphing over these little spitballs that are being thrown his way.
In Republican-red Texas, Trump supporter Benji Gershon said he liked what he heard.
Ultimately, I'm pretty happy with what he
believes the president is doing exactly what he said he'd do.
He's keeping his promises on the campaign, and I'm not just saying that from a partisan perspective. I can't say that about other presidents.
Gershon is president of the Dallas Jewish Conservatives. He believes President Trump has already built a better relationship with Israel, and he doesn't expect or want the president to change his style.
Not good.
Ultimately, he's doing that because that's just him. Trump being Trump, and that's what people like who he is. He's real.
It's nice to see a real business person actually in there and running the country like a business.
Darren Houck, a businessman himself, voted for Trump. He says he's impressed with how things are going in the White House. Is this what you expected?
I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect the pace or the speed at which they're doing things. He's moving a lot faster than I'd ever thought he would.
Still, Houck says combative press conferences could wear thin.
I wish he would stay in his own lane on that and not get so in the weeds.
But not every supporter is on board. At reliably conservative Fox News, the frustration boiled over for host Shepard Smith.
He keeps repeating ridiculous throwaway lines that are not true at all and sort of avoiding this issue of Russia as if we're some kind of fools for asking the question.
Trump supporters told me what the president
come up with some proof on this Russia thing, or shut the fuck up about it.
In what the president does.
Omar Villafranca in Dallas. Omar, thank you. Well, John Dickerson is anchor of Face the Nation. John, this news conference was spur of the moment. It was Donald Trump going with his gut.
It absolutely was, and it's fascinating to watch the split in the way it's been reviewed in Washington. Of course, it's gotten pretty bad reviews even from Republicans, but I talked to a lot of Trump supporters as well, just as Omar did, and they loved it, and they talked about his focus. That wasn't a word you heard in Washington reviews, except in the negative. But what they heard is they heard him talk about jobs. They heard him talk about cutting regulations. And they saw him being fully Donald Trump. And that's what they meant when they said he was keeping his promises. What about the unconventional things he said? They see strategy. Here's what one said. He said he tries to distract with his crazy remarks, but then he's left to focus on what he really wants to get done. This is deliberate philosophy, said this one supporter. And they enjoy his criticism of the press, too.
You know, late today, Mr. Trump said that the fake news media is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people.
That's right.
But the media didn't block his travel ban, didn't fire the national security advisor, didn't cause the labor secretary nominee to withdraw, didn't attack the judiciary. It seems like the common denominator of Mr. Trump's woes is the Constitution.
That's right. He's feeling the constraints that all presidents feel. He's using enemy, a word that Richard Nixon used, but in private. You're right that the courts have done that, and now the courts have also pinched what he wants to do in the future as he thinks about what his thoughts are. And Republican senators were the ones who knocked down his labor secretary, and now John McCain is undermining the president's credibility overseas. The media is a good punching bag, but it also is a protected American institution, and it was the Free Press that reported that his national security advisor, Michael Flynn, hadn't told the truth, and that the vice president had spread that untruth, and the president said that's what caused him to ask Flynn to resign.
Well, John, we'll be with you on Sunday morning on Face the Nation when your guests include White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. Thanks. The Trump administration says it will cut off federal funds to cities that give sanctuary to illegal immigrants. These sanctuary cities, and there are many, decline to enforce federal immigration law. Well, late today, Miami-Dade County, Florida, became the first major metropolitan area to drop its sanctuary status. Here's Manuel Bojorquez.
Clear the chamber. Please clear the chamber.
The decision to back the president's new order to detain illegal immigrants charged with a crime ignored hours of emotional pleas.
I'm an American citizen and I'm an orphan. My father was deported.
In a county where more than half are foreign-born, the new order has quickly spread fear and anger. Deportation can begin even if the person has not been found guilty of the crime. Many businesses here depend on the undocumented, like these farm workers. Some have worked the fields for decades.
We want our communities to be safe and to not be afraid whenever they see police car.
Lucia Kiek's husband was deported 5 years ago for driving on an expired license. Now she fears being separated from their 5 children, all U.S. born. Things have been very difficult, she says, ever since he was deported.
Maybe if they didn't use the false social security numbers.
No, I ask a neighbor to get them for me, she says. But Mayor Carlos Jimenez insists they have nothing to fear.
Our police officers have never been, are not now, and will never be immigration officers.
Jimenez is a Cuban-born immigrant himself, but he immediately complied with the president's order, which threatened to withhold millions in federal funding. The mayor's list of 34 recent detentions includes repeat offenders and violent crimes, including murder, but also lesser charges like aggressive panhandling.
Are there a couple of people with some minor charges? Yes, but we didn't identify them as being illegal or being undocumented. It was the federal government that somehow has an interest in those people.
Scott mayors in 24 other U.S. cities are going a different route, resisting the president's order and questioning its legality.
Manuel, thanks. Still ahead, taking the plunge in the name of science.